What is up, down, and sideways, all you beautiful individuals? It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you fine feathered individuals for what will be the final global power rankings of the spring split. Fret not, we'll do a full MSI actual ranking when the final couple teams qualify for the event in South Korea. But for now, it's the final wrap up for spring. Lots of movement, more so in the bottom half, as we have a pretty established top half of the board right now. But we begin with a surprise squad who had a heck of a playoff run in Deep Cross Gaming. Yes, that's right. We're talking about an LCP team that is not Team Secret Wales. It's the squad that they beat in finals, but this is the 5th seed that went on an absolutely insane run in playoffs and beat GAM twice.
Is absolutely something that needs to be recognized, and it's still, GAM is not the same GAM the last time you saw them around on the international stage, but still a very strong, stable team within the LCP, and one of these ones that is that barrier towards the top. And so seeing that result is important, and even more so is that run that you talked about through those playoffs, through that finals, and where it is that challenge against Team Secret Wales, who had been pretty much almost unscathed throughout the entirety of that split throughout in season 2 of the LCP. So very, very impressive and very good to get a little bit more LCP representation on this list.
And of course, despite losing in those finals, they're still going to qualify for MSI as a play-in squad to get through there, potentially get into that main round. But big kudos to them for stepping up. And I think a squad you can kind of talk maybe in the same level, maybe even prefer to have them, is Furia, who won CBLOL again, will be heading to MSI, and again, it's the same roster that the LCS has nightmares about.
Yeah, and so I think this is the comfortable position right here for both of these squads as far as where you are heading towards a mid-season invitational as the positions that you're going to be in. And again, as you said, really is about what are you preferring, right? Are you going with what you have seen through this split in the LCP for this squad, or are you going with Furia repeating in that sense and betting on an improvement, another chance around on the international stage to be a difference maker against other regions than just the LCS?
Yeah, because that's just a wildcard region. It's not even impressive to beat the LCS. Let's see what you can put up against some of the big dogs on that international stage. Then it's a couple of disappointments. We've already talked about the floundering that was Team Vitality at the end of the LEC playoffs, but how about anyone's legend? Let's wrap up the playoff run they had. Their only series wins, they were 3-0s, but they were against EDG and LGD, and they followed that up with getting 3-0'd pretty swiftly by World Elite and BLG. This was not the playoff run you wanted out of the Pandas.
No, and that 3-0 to World Elite is obviously a very big outlier within everything. I mean, for everybody that was losing to WE at that point, it was that outlier situation. But to me, it's more so the fall and the sting of this one is on that loss to BLG, and it being that 0-3 fashion, that clean sweep, that very controlled fashion game from BLG, where you expected at least some sort of bounce back, some type of answer, resounding response from this team from how poor that performance was against WE, and you got even more of that poor performance against BLG in that important situation. It's certainly one of those ones where there's maybe still some road to go with this squad as a group without Tabe behind the scenes.
Yeah, and we are fresh out of optimism carrying over from 2025. This is 2026, and we haven't seen that shining light from AL that we got last year. So it's back to the drawing board situation for that squad, and I legit wonder if there might be a few roster changes for this squad heading in to Summer Split. Just ahead of them, you get FlyQuest and then Team Liquid almost swapping spots. Obviously, a lot of that is due to that direct head-to-head. I'm sad FlyQuest is out. I'm hopeful for the future, and I'm hopeful that this version of Quid remains for Team Liquid in the LCS playoffs.
I was going to say, that's the biggest thing about this one, and really is the only thing that makes it okay to throw FlyQuest a little bit further back in my mind, because it comes at the expense, at the cost of what we saw with Quid from Team Liquid, and that is absolutely something that is going to triumph over all the excitement and fresh youth and everything else that we've been seeing with FlyQuest, losing that head-to-head and in the fashion that they did with Quid, putting the performances that he did out there. Yes, that is one of those ones that maybe can convince more people to get back on the bandwagon for old Team Liquid at this point in the LCS. I think if they are having Quid play at that type of level, contributing like that, you start to see a lot more of what you envisioned, what you dreamed about with this roster combination for Team Liquid, and getting to see that go up against what will be a Cloud9 that needs an answer after losing to Leon. That is absolutely something that I want to see in the LCS.
Yeah, and that's the angle where you can have an advantage against Cloud9 and maybe even Lion, where, you know, Saint was first team All-Pro, but Quid at the level that he was, at least in the last series, is the real first team All-Pro mid laner to talk about in the LCS. 16 spot, it's the only now, since Cloud9 lost to Lion, undefeated squad. They did it again. All through the split, Team Secret Wales a perfect 10-0. Yes, they were tested and lost some games against Deep Cross Gaming, as we talked about. But again, far and away, clearly the best team in the LCP and ready to compete and punch above their weight class at MSI.
Yep, there's nothing else you could do as an answer, as a resume to say that you are ready for the international stage. You are ready for everybody else, and you're ready to carry the torch for the LCP from the Flying Oysters of old, and we have seen it the previous 2 years of international events. And then again, last year we did get a little bit of noise out of Team Secret Wales, and I think this year is going to be the year where they take over and really do put their place and stamp on the region and what they're known for and how they play.
And you saw angles of that at first stand, but a little harder, more condensed competition in that one. It's another disappointment ahead of them with Movistar KOI. The rivalry was so hyped up. We're ready for a banger series, and they just swiftly kind of got 3-0'd by KC.
Someone's got to pay the price for falling, for faltering, for failing at the last chance, last opportunity for the LEC, and that is unfortunately the Movistar KOI boys. And especially, I think this is one of those ones where maybe they only fall a small handful of positions if the series plays out differently, but losing in the fashion that they did, as dominant as KC was against them, that is one of those areas where, yeah, you're not going to be saved by any regard in that sense. You are going to face a fall like this, and it's an unfortunate reality for Movistar KOI, and stark realization of just how poor and just what opportunity you missed out on with that performance this past weekend.
The question is, would you rather get pretty convincingly 3-0'd like that, or have a D plus Kia situation where you had the series in your hand, proceed to throw 2 Omega leads and get reverse swept? That feels even more painful.
That is more painful. I don't think you can present that as an option to almost any other organization, because I don't think it's possible for any other organization to collapse in that type of fashion. Again, there is a lot of places you could point the finger and be, right about where you are pointing it at who and what and which situations within the series to get to the result that we do at the end of it all after being in such a dominant, controlling position. But it's all not going to really matter, because at the end of the day, for D plus Kia, you got yourself into the top grouping of the LCK. And yes, it's a disappointment here at this point in time, but you got to know that your real task, your real business is what's ahead of you here in the LCK, and how you can hopefully use that to improve and shape yourself up for a world championship run.
It's a classic D plus. They give you just enough of a morsel of water that we're hydrated enough to go into next year, that there's enough hopium renewed that they can compete. But yeah, obviously we'll see how that goes. Last up, World Elite and Cloud9 on this list, losing for the first time to Lion. Now I'm feeling a little bit better about Team Liquid in that next head-to-head. That's why they're 1 spot ahead of them. And then the World Elite side, the miracle run, it's still possible, but if they beat BLG again in the rematch, that's an even bigger upset than any of their other ones.
Yeah, and that would be the real one, especially now that you've kind of had momentum halted a little bit, and now you need to show that bounce back, need to show that this stretch, this run of playoff WE is the WE that is still engaged, or are we going to see the 1-13 WE reemerge is going to be, I think, the real question when you're heading towards that series. But I think it is important that you do recognize what we have seen throughout this ridiculous playoff run for WE, and that's where you get a boost up in the rankings in this situation. But returning back to that Cloud9 and Team Liquid one, yes, I think it's one of those ones where maybe you're not going to take away as many points as you should, I think, frankly, for Cloud9 and their loss to Leon, and how Leon was able to really push and pressure them and really take control of that series and never let go of it. But when you look at Team Liquid and how Quid, again, was that dominant MVP level of free agent that we envisioned him being when he joined this Team Liquid team, that is something that scares me heading into the next series for Cloud9.
And I think they will be scared, and it will be a focal point for them going forward. It's a focal point for, Lion Gaming to win yet another split for sure for them as they crack into the top 10 for, I believe, the first time this split. And they, truthfully, will probably be favorites against either Cloud9 or Team Liquid, whoever they face. And somehow this drama with Castle coming over did what nobody thought, and it motivated Dokla to play better than he has all year.
I was going to say, I think this has to be the definitive answer right now of there is no more Castle on this team. It is only Big Dokes up in the top side. And there's no way, I think, even more so after the series that we just had in the LCS playoffs, that run against Cloud9, that you'd be betting against Big Dokes running the show for this squad and how things have been going. Of course, everything is very much so about Inspired and how he's controlling things and what is going on from the jungle perspective. But Big Dokes in the top side, Saint in the mid lane, and heck, even Berserker down in that bottom lane. You're getting a lot more of that vintage Berserker action coming on through within this playoff run. So very much so excited about the trajectory that Leon is once again putting themselves up for in the LCS.
Yeah, I mean, Berserker and Isles being so dominant in lane is like one of the biggest power points that they're going to have against either Cloud9 or even Team Liquid, where Yeon and Core JJ haven't been that elite duo for the majority here of 2026. So yeah, bot lane advantage, a big one for Lion Gaming. KT gets bumped out of that top 5, obviously didn't exactly scream confidence winning that D+ series for them in reverse sweep fashion. But the real story of this 10-6 board is 100% G2 and KC in that 6 and 8 spot. And I think what that insane final series proved, to me at least, is both of these squads can and should compete on the international level against the best of the best at MSI.
I will add one separate note about KT, and that is that I will put in a little awareness factor star beside them that, yes, it really isn't anything you're gaining points from beating DK in the fashion that series went, but you are getting the BDD activated awareness type of star put on this squad, and that is absolutely one of those factors that can be enough of a difference maker within these series.
Not what Gen G wants to see is BDD activated.
Right, is enough to be something that can throw KT into those conversations where maybe you think that they are a little bit out of their depth, and that depth is considering the top teams in the world right now, and we are including the likes of G2 Esports into there, and especially what we have seen from them throughout the playoff run that they just had in the LEC. Very much so excited to see them get another opportunity as that leading #1 seed for the LEC and how they will represent Europe.
And obviously, Skewmond already has a pretty damn good track record internationally in his incredibly young career and continued to level up and dominate domestically. We're all talking about this Nasus jungle pick, which, by the way, has hit the CB LOL. It's hit the EU Legends versus Korean Legends. It's gone internationally, and it is going to be a staple pick at MSI.
Yeah, and this is going to be very interesting because, again, the first time we saw Skewmond on the international stage at an MSI, I think individually he did struggle to showcase out and show what he was special at. But since then, and especially at First Stand coming out of that, the conversation internationally about G2 has been really about Skewmond and his growth and what he facilitates and what he brings to the table for this team. So that's not going to be a secret this time around. You absolutely are going to get a little bit more of that extra preparation and everything else. And that means that other avenues, whether it's going to be Broken Blade in the top lane, Caps in mid lane, or Hansama bot lane, are not going to have the same type of focus or preparation on them as they would in previous times around, because Skewmon has built up his name, his reputation enough. And I'm wondering if that is going to be something that changes the dynamic for G2 on the international stage once again.
And listen, even beyond G2, because this finals was so competitive, KC had 2 different match points in the series. I feel like even Karmine Corp should easily get through play-ins and be in that main stage, and they themselves be able to compete against some of the LPL and LCK squads.
Is a whole separate story, different egg to go through, but it is almost equally as exciting that they get this opportunity on the international stage. You're talking about someone like Kana in the top side, the journey that he's been through, everything since T1, and now gets an opportunity like this. You're looking at a player like Yike, of course, who we have had with G2 in the past on the international stage, and now this situation. But the most important one is going to be that bottom lane of Kaliste and Busio. Getting this experience together is the big thing for me, again, because this isn't some, well, pack it up, it's done at the end of this year. We're envisioning this duo playing together and being a iconic, strength point for the EU region on the international stage. And I think this is where it starts. This event right here and the form that they are in heading towards it is something that I am excited about for Karmine Corp.
And listen, Busio, we haven't seen internationally for a little while, but last time we saw him on FlyQuest, he was having some pretty darn good individual performances. So yes, definitely hyped up to see them, that duo, make that international debut. We roll into that top 5 hidden no longer, and this is the most consistent board that we've had now over the last couple of weeks. Really, the only change is Top Esports coming back into that 5 spot to replace KT Rolster, but even with some upsets now after the lower bracket run, I don't think many people would be giving Top Esports the favorite title over BLG if that's who they meet in the finals.
No, and I think it's one of those ones where it's a mixed bag, right? Because it comes with the respect, the appreciation that Top Esports has gotten themselves to this position. They've been involved within kind of that top picture around the LPL for the entirety of this split in the conversation. The rebound that we have seen from them after the whole debacle that was beforehand in the previous split and everything else, very much so. Happy to see Top Esports in this position. But also, I would be very happy to see BLG knock them down a peg in this situation, and especially complete the lower bracket run that they have set themselves up for here in the LPL. And given what we have seen from them and the strength that you envision for them, it is one of these ones where, unfortunately, yes, you're the one waiting for someone to join you in the finals. You're still finding yourself underneath them in this situation for the power rankings right here, Top Esports.
And I think for the LPL, if you're a fan of the LPL, I think your best case scenario is actually a heavily contested finals that Top Esports beats BLG in. You get a remotivated BLG that won't be complacent heading to international, and a confident Top Esports that, yes, I understand it'd be further to fall if they collapse internationally as the actual split champs, but I think that's your best case scenario in actually feeling good about the 2 teams you're sending to MSI.
It's very weird. I think if BLG is going to be getting through, right, and passing by WE and everything else and getting to these finals, I think it's not a question to me about what BLG then we will get on the MSI stage or what motivation they would have. I think it needs to be that competitive finals where Top Esports needs to show that they're right there step for step or better than BLG in order to carry that confidence that they have throughout this playoff stage to MSI at that point. I think that's going to be the big thing for me, looking at the LPL finals and how things sort themselves out there. But of course, that's only one very small part of this equation within this top 5, because ahead of it is still the 3-headed monster of the LCK, which we are only going to find answers for this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm honestly ready just to throw a dart at the board for how you want to separate this top 3. They're so evenly matched. I think I could draw a thread and do with some equations to make a point for basically every possible scenario outcome with these top 3 and whatever their head-to-head are. Gen G, again, because they didn't even play last week, any of these top 3, but because Gen G recently beat Hanwha, feels like that's deserving enough to kind of have them still in that top spot. But it is a 1A, 1B, 1C situation between these three squads right now.
This has to be the colorblind experience looking at Skittles or M&Ms, and someone goes, hey, which one do you want? They're all the same to me, man. At this point, I don't see any difference here. I don't see any difference, really, with all of these squads at the end of the day. Yeah, sure, there's absolutely little intricate things, style differences, and strengths and weaknesses that you can go through for sure. But the overall strength, that power level, that capableness that all of these squads have shown absolutely matches up completely. And it's, I think, going to just absolutely come down to who's got it on the day, who's more locked in, who comes up with the unique strategy to triumph, over what preparation would have been done beforehand. That is absolutely going to be those factors, and I think that this is going to be one of the most exciting weekends possible for the LCK.
Yeah, it's a moment like this where you actually kind of love this King of the Hill half bracket format because, especially with this week off, as you say, unique strategies are probably going to be the play when it's a single best of 5 for at least T1 or Hanwha to qualify. You got to pull out the cheese, spicy picks, whatever it takes to qualify for MSI.
Nasus. Yeah.
It's about, do you drop the Nasus right away and just get it off the board if you're owner of Kanavi?
I think so. I think you use that as the initial power punch into a series. You use that right away. And you're right. Again, that extra week off, yes, it's built up some drama and other, holding down strategies in practice. But really, it has been, again, not like this is happening in a vacuum. You have seen the LEC. You have seen the LPL. You've seen the LCS. And sure, maybe you don't think of them as the same level, but you've seen things work and little things like that. And you can plug and play and test it out. And absolutely, I think if you are one of these squads that is paying attention and is willing to risk it on some of these things, that can give you an X factor heading into this weekend amongst teams that you desperately need some sort of X factor to separate you from the rest of the greatness that is in the LCK.
Yeah, and the Nasus pick is like tried and true. People know it. It's not a sleeper pick anymore. I'm more looking time off. What has Kiria been cooking? Because there's going to be some kind of bot lane combo that steals at least one game in a series for T1, and I can't wait to see it. But yes, it's going to be an absolutely nutty season or weekend in the LCK especially. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Stunners, thanks so much for hanging out as always. We'll catch you on that flippity flip.